Welcome to the Versa Business Tips Podcast. I'm your host, founder and CEO of Versa Business Systems, Shaheen Mazloom. We're here to discuss marketing today. We're with Deborah Walton. She is the founder and CEO of Revelant. Revelant, I said it right this time, Revelant. So, marketing. I love marketing. It's not my wheelhouse. I feel like it's most business owners' biggest struggle, right? Everybody always wants more leads, more sales, better marketing, better branding. I'm excited to jump in and dive into this conversation with you, Deborah. Thanks for joining us today.
Awesome. I'm so excited to be here. Thank you for having me.
Absolutely, absolutely. So for those out there that don't know about you, you have this marketing company. Tell us a little bit about, your strengths and your journey and how you got here.
Absolutely. So, the first place where I got to do marketing was back in high school. I was working at my dad's law firm. He had
Very
a
cool.
private practice, and I would spend my summers doing marketing, doing little administrative things here and there, really learning about entrepreneurship from a first ground level view, right?
Right.
And so that was great experience to see the highs and the lows and the challenges, and that really set the tone for me. So fast forward to undergrad at Spelman College, I was in my first business class, Marketing 101, the 4 P's of marketing: product, place, price, and promotion. My mind was
Yep.
blown about promotion, and I knew that I was hooked. And so from there, really just starting my journey working with small businesses, doing freelance consulting. A lot of it started out just for free, volunteering and interning. And then over the years, it really just grew and expanded. So in my
Right.
corporate career, I worked at an agency, Vertical Nerve, based in Dallas, Texas. Also worked corporate side at IBM for 5 years in marketing. And
Okay.
over the years of a marketing career, still continued to do freelance consulting and do things on the side. And
Right.
at the point when it was like, okay, this is it, let's go for it, really transition into the business full time. And so what I find is the biggest struggle for small and medium sized businesses is, number one, not knowing who the audience is, and number two, showing up consistently, having that consistent presence. Because when you
Yeah.
have a huge client load, when you've got a lot of products, you've got to ship them, get them out the door, you're working in the business, not on the business. That's when marketing
Yeah.
typically hits to the wayside and falls to the back burner. And so I help firms to either outsource their marketing or plan a strategy and a plan so that they have that roadmap to really ease the burden of solving their marketing challenges.
Right, right. So would you say one of the biggest mistakes businesses are making is not being consistent in one area of marketing? Because the reason why I asked you that is I mean, especially when I first started out in business, right? I'm trying mailers and I'm trying Facebook ads and I'm trying this, that, and the third. And then once I'm like, okay, well, this one has the best cost per lead. Let's go heavy on this, and then I kind of forget about everything. Is that what you're seeing as most business owners making that mistake? Like, should you be more present and doing a little bit of everything, or is it all different?
No, and actually, this is one of my favorite questions because a lot of business owners think they have to be everywhere. So let's talk about social media. I
Right.
have to be on every platform. I have to be all the time showing up every day. I've got to be on Be Real and TikTok and Twitter and Instagram. And you don't. If there's someone out there in marketing saying that it's a requirement for you to be successful, they're lying to you, because the most important place for you to be is where your audience is. I'll say that again. The most important place for you to be is where your audience
Right.
is. So when we think about consistency, it's really having that consistent presence and that level of visibility, regardless of what channel or platform you're using, as long as you are consistently promoting, getting your name out there. Because when times are good, you're probably not thinking about it. But when times are not as
Right.
good with those clients or those purchase orders coming in, now you're scrambling. And marketing is an engine that takes some time once you get the windmill going to yield those results. And so if you are in a lull and you haven't done anything for marketing in 6 months, now let's hurry up and do some marketing. Great. Be consistent with it, because that's how you're going to see those results over the long term.
Right, right. I mean, you do bring up a great point, and most of these gurus out there, they're like, be omnipresent, be everywhere all the time. to an extent though, right? Like for me, I'm in B2B. Business owners are everywhere. They're on every platform because a lot of them are marketing on every single platform and posting on every single platform, But like if you're, I guess, let's put up an example of, I don't know, a toy company, right? Those kids are on mostly what? YouTube and TikTok, right? You're not going to find a ton of them on Facebook or Snapchat at a young age. Is that kind of where you're going with that?
That's fair. And think about it this way. When we're talking about small businesses and startups, they're really trying to maximize that investment of time and resource, right? So instead of trying to be on every single social media platform or every channel, you really need to focus on where your audience is. So if you're in B2B and let's say you're selling, real estate, for example, someone who is on TikTok, yes, your client could be on TikTok, but if they're looking on TikTok for food recipes or how to pack a suitcase and roll my ties, they're not going to see what you're sharing about real estate. They may look for that on Facebook. So it really makes
Right.
sense to dial in your marketing strategy. It goes back to strategy, thinking about who your audience is and meeting them
Yeah.
where they are.
Yeah. 100%. And just to confirm, you're talking about ads specifically and not so much just posting, right?
I'm talking about both. So
Okay.
I've worked with small businesses that have a very limited amount of time for marketing because they're trying to also obviously run the business, hire the
Right.
staff, manage the staff, work on client delivery.
I guess that makes sense. If you're spending time, you don't have the ability to just easily schedule it on all the platforms. If you're spending time posting it on TikTok and people that are maybe your target market aren't looking on TikTok for what you have, then it's a waste of time.
I know very successful 6-figure and 7-figure earners in the B2B space that are not on TikTok at all.
Right.
So you
Yeah.
don't have to be everywhere. It really
Yeah,
makes sense
100%.
to
I
maximize
met a billionaire
where
the other
you're at.
day. The only social media he has is LinkedIn and TikTok, or sorry, LinkedIn and Facebook. That's it. Multi-billionaire. So you're right. You don't have to be everywhere. You know, it, recently we started focusing more on Google Ads. I think because we've been thinking about that a lot more of, okay, well, where are people going when they need funding, right? So we've been really trying to focus more on funding. Credit card processing is pretty much I mean, our leads just roll in constantly. We have so much word of mouth. We have some huge referral partners, and same with the tax credit side of the business and employee benefits. Like we have more business that we can handle. On the funding side, we're still marketing, right? So we're doing ads, and we started thinking, I'm like, well, business owners, when they're looking for funding, they're going to Google. They're not going to Facebook and typing in how to get a business loan or where to go to get a business loan. They're not doing that on TikTok. They're not doing it on, it's Google, and that's it. So I was like, well, let's just do that. So we started doing Google ads, and then we would just retarget the visitors to those ads on social media. So that way those social media ads are only going to the people that found us on Google. And it changed everything. I'm not new to business or marketing. I mean, I my first business when I was 7 years old. I'm 36. But it's crazy how we're just constantly evolving and constantly learning. I mean, this company I've only had for 7 years, but it's like we constantly get these aha moments. So if any of you listening to this now just had an aha moment, run with it, right? Like you've got to get that information. You got to realize where are they and what are they looking for when they're in those spaces. Because if they're not looking for you in those places, they're not going to see you. That's amazing. So we've talked a little bit about digital. What are some other, I feel like print is like dead. Every time I've tried it. I swear I've tried it. I've been magazines, Forbes. I mean, you name it. And it's, they say branding, 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 but like, I can't see branding as actual dollars. I can't track customers. How do you get around that mindset of the branding side of things when you're doing an article, like just to get your name out there and not so much lead generation that may turn into physical dollars that you could track.
Yeah, yeah. This is a fun conversation to have. So, branding and marketing, a lot of people use those words interchangeably, but they're not the same thing. A
No, they're
brand is
completely
really
different.
the identity, right? So, someone will
Yeah.
say, oh, a brand is just a logo. So, if I say the word Target, you're picturing the logo, but Target is known for more than just the logo. They're known
Right.
for the bright white shopping spaces when you walk in, and now they've expanded to have Starbucks. They have
Mhm.
makeup counters with Ulta. Target is known for more than just the logo of the bullseye, right? So we
Right.
think about a brand as being an identity, and we think about marketing as the way to attract those ideal customers in. Branding will keep you at the forefront of their mind, and it also will be able to build that level of authority. And it does matter. Think about all the brands that you love, whether it's Nike, Target, Starbucks, Walmart, wherever it is, you have certain brands that you're going to spend more money and pay that premium for, right?
Yeah.
Someone will drive an extra 5-10 minutes to go to Starbucks rather than just going to McDonald's or Dunkin' Donuts for a cup of coffee. So there
Right.
is an ROI in branding. It's just that it's more long term, and it's really about having that level of authority and loyalty for your offering with your audience. So when we think
Right.
about really wanting those hard dollars and being able to track, we're really looking more at the marketing side of things, whether it's an advertisement or a campaign or a content asset, number of downloads, clicks on an email. So there's a lot of
Right.
different ways to track and measure, but we think about branding being really more long term to build that level of authority and that loyalty, and
Yeah.
marketing to attract those customers in and have them, generate revenue for your firm.
Right. So I mean, when you talk about branding, right? So those companies you named, Target, Starbucks, Walmart, right? These are massive, multi billion dollar companies. When did they start even focusing on branding? Was it after they've got 15, 20 stores and they're crushing it? Now they need to focus on branding, or should your small mom and pop shop be focused on branding from the start? That's what
Yeah.
I've kind of always struggled with. I'm like, well, do we even, like I'm doing the podcast and doing, I've done a ton of branding. I just I'm at a point now where I'm like, I think I've done enough branding. I think I'll just focus on marketing. But it's like, how do you find that? Like, I know the small business owners that are watching, they're like, well, yeah, she's talking about branding. She's talking about Starbucks and Walmart. Like, I don't need to worry about that. Do they? Or, should they just be, telling their story as more of a branding and getting their name out there just to explain what they're all about?
Yeah, yeah. So think about someone's offer, right? So if you have an offer that's based on just price, and you
Mm,
could be anywhere, you could be on Upwork, you could be on Fiverr. I'm talking like a B2B service. So
right.
if you have something that is just focused on price, then maybe for you, the brand doesn't matter because you are only going to offer the lowest price, and it's just a commodity, right? But if you really want to differentiate your business from others, that's where branding comes in. And there's different levels to it, there's different levels of investment. But at a minimum, when you're starting out as a small business, if you are attracting clients that are either paying high ticket prices or you're going after large name clients, you do want your brand to be established before you're approaching
Yeah.
them. You do want
Right.
to have a website, you want to have a logo, you want to have an email address. You don't want to use pink sweet cheeks at AOL.com if you're trying to get a check from Under Armour for a campaign or for
Well, I
something.
mean, if you're trying to get a check from anyone, I don't think you want that email address.
So, I mean, branding is always important, but the level of the investment.
With print mail, what should we be focused on?
Yeah, so print mail is highly effective for certain industries, specifically if you're targeting more local based with your offerings or your products. So think about car dealerships or restaurants or realtors. I've seen it
Mm,
very highly effective results and that investment return on reaching out through direct mail if you're local based. So, what it really comes down to is starting with really being very clear about who the audience is. And that's why strategy is so important, because most of
right.
the firms that I work with, They think that their audience is one group over here to the left, and it may be within that group a smaller subset or another group entirely over here to the right that they're not even reaching out to. That's their
Right.
ideal client and customer. So it's really important to be able to have that alignment. Now, what I have seen is that a lot of business owners have invested in getting a magazine ad and there's no investment return, right? I'm not getting leads coming in. No one's calling me because I have a 2-page spread with this editorial. Well, you may not necessarily get those leads coming in, but that does help to build the authority. And it also can be a great conversation starter
Right.
to send that to new clients, to send that to people who you're getting referrals from, to build that additional authority and that credibility. And so from a personal branding
Hmm.
investment, it is, a pretty good investment to make, thinking about how you can really increase your level of thought leadership with some of those they're advertising editorials, so advertorials.
Right, right, exactly. So we keep talking about strategy, right? At the end of the day, it reminds me of the one thing that everybody says: you are who you hang around, right? So if you don't have people, which most people don't, most business owners don't, they're not surrounded by 20, 30 experts in business that they can constantly bounce ideas off of. And so strategizing with marketing agencies is probably the most important thing. You know, I have, I would say, 3 marketing companies that I have gotten the most value from, and I've never even done business with them yet. Like, I cannot wait to give them my money because the amount of help that they've given me just by having conversations like this. And, again, it's the strategy, and you don't know what you don't know. So if you're, like you said, if you're focused on this audience, but maybe there's a better audience over here, a smaller audience that you can fine tune. So with strategy, obviously every business type is different, right? um Omnipresent with marketing, if you have the money to do it, is that even something that you want to get to? Or again, is it just as long as your client base is hanging in those areas, go as wide as you can? Or is it better to focus on, say, 2 to 3 marketing avenues and try and hit those same people from different areas?
Yeah. So one of the challenges that I love to help clients solve is through the different stages of their brand, right? So they have the initial
Okay.
inception and launch. They have typically there's a pivot or a rebrand at some point. It's usually about 5 to 7 years after the brand has been launched, and then that high growth
Hmm.
mode. So, based on
Right.
the capacity and the bandwidth of not only the time, but also financial resources to invest, it does make sense to really expand to multi channels and being more omnipresent once you have those resources in place and you're really clearly established to be able to communicate testimonials and have a lot of social proof that can be shared. I've seen a
Right.
lot of brands really do well with multi channel once they have that level of high growth and they've got the
Hmm.
case studies and they've got basically the receipts to prove the value that they
Right.
can add to customers. And so they're able to make the investment in that high growth. But for a lot of brands that are early on in their years, in the first 1 to 5 years, it really does make the most sense to maximize maybe 1 or 2 channels. What's really going to work well, double down on those. And then once you're seeing the results, you can then expand and grow over time. But sometimes what
Right.
brands will try to do is to grow too fast. And so they're spending a lot of money investing. And then if they're not getting any returns back, at some point they have to make a decision. Are we going to keep investing? How are we going to keep things sustained? But it certainly is important to maintain that level of visibility with marketing, whether you're doing it yourself. And typically when you have a certain amount of clients coming in or customers, you don't have the bandwidth, and so that's when you look to outsource it and get that extra help.
Right.
But what's interesting is I think that every firm could benefit from having a marketing consultant, because
Oh,
even
for
the
sure.
enterprise wide firms, right? The globals, the Microsofts of the world. Think about
Right.
how many people on the team have been there for 5, 10 years. They're doing things the same way they've always been done. They've got a
Yep.
routine, they've got a system. Okay, well, this is how we're going to solve that challenge, and this is how we're going to approach that. And so they're drinking the Kool-Aid so much that the fresh ideas, the insight that they are missing is really a blind spot, because everyone is thinking and doing things in a way of groupthink. And so there's always
100%.
value in having that external, fresh set of eyes and fresh point of view come in to be able to add value.
Yeah, yeah, for sure. I mean, and the thing about marketing is it's forever changing, right? The way people want to be marketed to is constantly changing. Like the ads, the reason why ads are constantly changing is because ads that worked 20 years ago don't work today. Hell, ads that worked 5 years ago don't work today, right? The world is just in a completely different place, before COVID, after COVID, especially, right? So those businesses that have been around a while and their marketing is working, but they're looking to grow, and the marketing that they're doing, there's some marketing that's really hard to scale. For example, direct mail. It's hard to scale because it's super expensive, right? You want to double your mail spend, and you're spending $20,000 worth a week. You're going to kick out another 20 to 40 grand before you get any kind of know-how that it's working at a double. What do you recommend to those people that what they have isn't broken, but they really are trying to scale even further? Is it, hey, let's just take a look at every part of your business and do a sky view and figure out the best strategy? Or is there like a quick fix, so to speak? Like, I would always do a TV ad, or I would always do this, or is it really just completely different based on the business?
Yeah. So, what I always like to make sure I preach and teach is that mass marketing does not work. You have to do target marketing. So, thinking about your audience, what companies typically do when they are scaling, they're in that high growth mode, they're established, is there are audience segments. So, instead of
Mm.
having one target profile for your product or service, you may have 3 to 5. And within those 3 to 5 customer profiles, you are very specific with the message, you're very specific with your approach, and you're very specific with the channel. So you may have one
Right.
product or service that solves 3 or 4 different problems, challenges, or needs, and there should be a different message for each of those challenges that you solve, so that someone who has challenge A resonates with that message, someone with challenge D
Right.
resonates with that message. And so typically what we see for brands that are looking to scale is that they further define and they have those customer segments. And then there's a whole entire customer journey built out across channels if they have the bandwidth and the ability and
Right.
capability to do that in order to reach them. So maybe it may not be direct mail, it could be an email campaign, it could be a live event with a follow up campaign on social media, but it really is about
It
target
could just be
marketing.
another product to the same customers.
Yep. Yep. And
Yeah.
there's also expanding wallet share, right? So how do you grow
Yeah.
the wallet share of one client rather than having to go out and get 10 more? How can you get one client to buy more from you? So there's a lot of
Right.
different ways to grow and scale. And it really comes back to, I map everything in a marketing strategy to the business strategy. What are the goals? What's the vision? What's the direction? Let's look at
Right.
Q3,
Well, the
Q4.
mar the marketing and the sales is the only way to get there, right? There's two things that make up a business that really matter. It's marketing and sales. HR doesn't matter. Marketing and sales. That's it.
Revenue is the lifeblood of a company, and
Yeah,
you can get revenue without marketing, but you
you
will
can.
not likely get it long term in a
Right.
sustainable way without
Yeah.
marketing. So it really takes marketing and sales to get that revenue coming in.
100%. 100%. It's been great talking today, Deborah. A lot of our guests will have a gift for our guests and our listeners, and I'm hoping you will give them some kind of few minutes of your time to take a look at their business. What do you got for them today?
Absolutely. So, for everyone tuning in, thank you so much for joining. I'd love to have a free marketing strategy session with you, talk more about your business, talk more about your goals, and really just lay everything on the table, lay all the cards on the table. Because having that outside perspective, that fresh set of eyes, and that fresh insight will really give you some new ideas to innovate and either refresh or just help elevate and take you to the next level. So you can definitely reach out to me at berevelant.com, and I'd love to offer a free strategy session for you.
Awesome. I appreciate it. I'll make sure I put the email in the description along with the website and the best way to contact you. And I can't wait to talk to you again and see how marketing changes next year. I'm trying to get every guest back on once a year because I mean, obviously you know this, but every single year business is just completely different. I was looking through my book the other day at like the things that I was doing and writing down a year ago versus today. Like it's like a different world. It's crazy to me how things are growing and changing constantly. So looking forward to having you back in the future. Can't wait to actually. I'm going to take advantage of your call because, like I said, we're doing some different things with marketing. I'd love for you to take a look and see what you think about what we're doing, how we can better our marketing strategies. And yeah, I can't wait to talk to you again soon.
Absolutely. I'd love to come back because this time next year, I'm sure we'll be talking much more about AI and how that is
Oh yeah,
influencing everything. So we'll stay tuned for
absolutely.
that.
Let's hope that AI gets a little. I've been doing AI for 3 years, and I thought that was our saving grace. But then Twilio had to start messing around, and it's been a mess. Marketing's AI is great, marketing is great, but it changes too rapidly for my heart. I'm like, yes, we've got the one thing that's taken us all the way, and then it changes.
AI is not something we can just fully rely on and then walk
No,
away. And I think that's what
no,
people are wanting to
that
do.
was the biggest,
But guess
yeah, the
what?
biggest
If
mistake
you
I
do
made.
that, you're going to pay the consequences because Google has been changing the algorithm. A lot of things are changing and shifting. The more that
I mean,
AI begins to become
the
prevalent,
government is putting 100%. The government is putting more regulations in constantly. Do not fully rely on AI. It was a big mistake I made, and if I hadn't had 7 years in business, it would have put me out of business. So yeah, definitely. I keep telling people all the time, like AI is amazing, but don't solely rely on it because it will cripple you unless you have a huge nest egg for when it does change. Because
AI can
it
help,
will
but it
change.
should not be
Yes.
running everything. So that's the
No,
main
it
pro.
should never be running everything. If it's running everything, we got a big problem. But either way, it should never run a full, like, it shouldn't be your lead source. It shouldn't be your communication channel. It shouldn't handle a full task. And if it does, don't solely rely on it. Make sure you have other people or other things doing the same thing because it's just too unpredictable right now.
Yep.
There's going to be a lot of things that are put in place, and it's really for our protection. I mean, Skynet, Terminator, that stuff is no joke, right? Like, we got to make sure AI doesn't take over the world, right? So these things are going to come into place, and they're very cool. There's a lot of cool stuff you can do with AI. I suggest everybody use it to some extent. Yeah, just be mindful that it's going to constantly change, just like everything else is.
Absolutely. Make sure you're managing it. Don't just let it run things for you.
Yeah, yeah.
Absolutely.
Thank you, Deborah. I appreciate you hopping on. And I'm actually going to. So I just go onto your website, and I'll be able to schedule a session right on that website.
Absolutely.
Perfect. All right, and it's b.revelant.
It's berevelant.com.
Oh, it's b.
So
Okay, Revelant. Got it.
berevelant.com. And then you'll
Perfect.
click on the button, get in touch.
Thanks.
Perfect. Well,
Have a
it's
good night.
lovely to meet you. Excited for the
You too.
podcast. Thank you.
Absolutely. We'll talk soon.
Bye.